Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes. Welcome to Everything Co-op. This beautiful, beautiful Thursday in Washington, D.C. I have Mr. Simon Vansintjan on. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Vernon. It is indeed a lovely day. I was able to get out this morning and do a walk, and just wonderful weather.
Well, I'm going to get out this afternoon. I was going to say this evening I'm going to get out. I'm not going to get out this afternoon. It's a little bit warm right now, but I'll get out and do a little walk too.
Yeah. Okay. It's really nice out there.
So, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm sure we'll discuss it in the thing, but we've been running a crowdfunding campaign, and we reached our goal last night, and that's been, it's a big relief. So it's been a good day so far, tidying up some loose ends, sending out announcements, those kind of things.
Well, if I'd known you had reached your goal, I just went through the process and made a pledge. I probably wouldn't have done it. I think you should raise your goal. Okay.
Yeah, we have stretch goals. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's amazing. Thank you.
So let's start off. You're in the music industry. That's what you're doing right now. And you started a co-op?
Yeah, we started a co-op that is specifically an online music sales website. So artists can set up an account on it, and they can use it to sell their music online. It's a fairly different way of, that sounds really old school. In the modern world, most people have, Spotify or Tidal or, Apple Music or things like that. But this is just a project that we're trying, just an online record store, essentially, a little bit like Bandcamp, if you're familiar with that website, and just a place for musicians to sell their music and take a cut.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Bandcamp, but let's get a little information about you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up and go to school?
Yeah, so I'm from Belgium. I've got a little bit of a all-over traveled history, which ends with me going to high school in New York City, going to college in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and through a variety. So for my partner's job, we've been moving every couple of years, and we just moved to DC 3 years ago. So we're in Washington D.C. And really really loving it here. The community, the ecosystem as well, has been really great to be a part of, and that's
You're talking about the co-op ecosystem.
Yeah. I think the local organizing ecosystem generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you're doing all of this traveling, Belgium, New York. Where'd you go to college again? In
Scotland.
Scotland.
Edinburgh. Yeah.
They don't speak English over there, do they?
They do speak English. Hard to understand sometimes.
I did go there once. I did not understand anything that they said.
Yeah.
Okay.
After living there for 6 years, I could do some of it.
Okay. And so New York, Scotland, now in DC, born in Belgium. How did you get involved in co-ops, and when did you get involved?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a journey. So around 2017, 2018, we were living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I started working. I was already interested in co-ops, but I started working at one of the Arizmendi bakeries, which are worker-owned co-ops. And I did that for a solid 4 months, which it was a great experience. Working in the co-op was like a really great, like it was the first time I'd worked in a space where everyone was on equal footing. I never got to worker owner status, mainly because working in a bakery is really rough. Hours, starting at 3 o'clock can be really draining. And it just did not align with my partner's schedule. So decided to not do that. But while there, I also worked on setting up a community land trust, which is this was motivated to start it in like 2020. So it was very motivated by trying to figure out ways to, in Northern California, to create more housing equity. And community land trusts are very adjacent with co-ops. I feel like, it's like kind of the same ecosystem as part of the solidarity economy. And in that way, then from there on, I also do web development as a job. And have been doing that for non-co-op spaces, but then started volunteering here and there for some... I've always had a background in music, so music journalism. I've done radio like 10 years ago. So I've always had an interest in that kind of stuff and found a community of people where those interests aligned via online music co-ops like Resonate and Ampled. And, started talking to people, started tinkering, started putting together something, had some ideas, and then, December comes around and we're launching our own co-op. And it's been a very full 6 months since then.
Okay. Well, you bounced around all over. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I love community land trusts. And for those out there that don't know, well, why don't you tell us what is a community land trust?
Sure. So there's a couple of variations that this can look at, but what we were doing was it's basically a 501c3 that holds land, and not the houses on the land, but it holds the land in trust of the community. And they have a board that is a third, it is people living on the land, it is a third people in the community, and then a third usually like stakeholders of some form. And it basically means that you decommodify the actual value of the land, and you make it much more affordable for people to own property. That's how the one that we were working on was structured. DC has one as well, the Douglas Community Land Trust, and I'm not very in tune with how they're structured, but it is probably very similar.
Okay, and there was another one in DC before Douglas, and I've been trying to find it. I haven't. I don't know. It's a lady by the name of, her last name was Jones, who was in charge of it. And do you know how Community Land Trust came to the U.S.?
I do not. No, I don't know where they came from. Yeah, do you have that?
Yeah, it's interesting that there's a couple in Georgia, Albany, Georgia, Charles and Shirley Sherrard. They took a group of people over to Israel to learn about community land trusts, and they brought it back. I think their first community land trust was called Community Land Trust. Okay. But Charles has since deceased in the last couple of years, and Shirley's still extremely active, Shirley Sherrard. Okay, so let's talk about this co-op. Who are the members of the co-op?
Yeah, so we're a worker-owned co-op. As I'm sure your listeners are aware, there's producer-owned co-ops, consumer-owned co-ops, and worker-owned co-ops. Actually, I don't know. There's probably way more than that. There's also housing co-ops. It's a long list. But we're a worker-owned co-op, which is fairly, is still fairly loose and ambiguous. But basically, it means that everyone who's a worker-owner has an equal say and equal vote in the decisions of our business. Our team right now, we have 3 worker owners. I'm in DC. Jody is in New York, and there are kind of community outreach, community liaison, creative person, all around champion. They're great. And Alex is our jazz trombonist / what's the word? It's basically they know about co-ops. They're our co-op expert. So they know how to structure a co-op. They know how to build decision-making structures. They're involved in sociocracy for all. So, more like horizontal decision-making things, consent-based decision-making things. So Alex knows all that stuff. And I do mainly the website and the programming side of it. But we also have a team of I would say about 4 to 5 pretty dedicated volunteers. Other people help with the website. Other people help with media outreach or translation. Even, our website is available fully in French. And that's because we have someone also working on Spanish. People just want to help out. And that is there's conversations there about how we get from people who are volunteering or helping out or working, paid work, to becoming worker ownership. That's all stuff we have to figure out.
So I want to go back to when you were saying you're a worker owner and you started listing the types of co-ops. So I've categorized them into 4 different types of co-ops. And the first 2 is based on who owns and controls the business. Employee owns and controls the business. It's called a worker co-op. And that's what you are. And for me, any business that you could think of could be owned and controlled by the employees as a worker cooperative. But if it's owned and controlled by the persons that use the products or service, then it's a consumer co-op. Housing co-ops fall under that. Credit unions. Food co-ops started as consumer co-ops, but some are now worker co-ops and some are hybrid. Both the consumers and the workers own and control the business. There's a health clinic in Madison, Wisconsin that's owned by the patients. It's a consumer co-op. And then if the other one you talked about was producer, and I have a group of people or businesses come together to create a marketing / producer co-op so that they could get access to more markets at a better price. Farmers join, like Cabot Creamery, Land O'Lakes Ocean Spray. Those are all marketing or producer co-ops. And there's a group of artists in Pittsburgh, black females, called Ujamaa, and they make jewelry and paintings and clothing, and they open up a storefront collectively, and they have a web presence, ujamacollective.org, I believe it's what it is. So those are 3. And then the 4th one is called a purchasing co-op. Likewise, a group of people or businesses come together to purchase the products and or services that they need to get better quality at a lower price. Farmers use this, artists. There's a group in D.C. called Consumer Purchasing Alliance, and they were formed for churches and nonprofits so that they could buy and it was like churches were paying 3 times what housing co-ops were paying for garbage collection. They were just ripping the churches off. But copy machines, gas, solar, there's a lot of different things that people can come together and work. And Consumer Purchasing Alliance has been around probably 10, 12 years. And they're in Boston now, and they're going out to different cities. So those are the 4 types: worker co-op, consumer co-op, marketing / producer co-op, and then purchasing co-op.
Yeah, that's actually really great because one of the things, we are a worker co-op now, but we also advocate for a exit to community, which is this idea that while we're trying to be beholden to the workers now, the employees get a say, we actually want to evolve into something that's more of a multi-stakeholder cooperative, which is because we are a music store where artists come on and sell their music, and then we also have people who come in and purchase the music. We have more stakeholders than just the people who are making the thing. We want to bring those people into the decision-making process formally. And so we don't know yet what that looks like. We're working on our operating agreements. We're an LLC, so operating agreements or bylaws. And eventually we hope to get to that place where we're bringing people who, use our platform to sell stuff, are able to come in and help us make decisions about how to run it.
Well, that is fascinating. It sounds like you're wanting like a multi-stakeholder or hybrid, and that would be interesting. food co-ops have been doing this hybrid thing for a while now, where both the employees that work in the food co-op and the people that shop in the co-op both own it. Mm-hmm. And they may have some formulas like 60% of the business is owned by the consumer and 40% by the employees, or blah, 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 and how they vote and all of that stuff. So it's fascinating. And you may have three categories of people: the people that work in the business, the people that provide the music, and the people that purchase the music. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like that could be fun. A lot of fun.
A lot of work, certainly.
Yes. And with that work, potentially a lot of rewards for the people that are in the co-op.
Yeah.
So why did you want to do co-op? You said the Ars Mende Bakery you worked in San Francisco, and so you like it, but you knew about co-ops before that.
Yeah.
Why did you choose co-op?
I think I come to co-ops from a little bit more. I know that they're very, like, the way that they redistribute wealth is more equitable. The way they redistribute power is more equitable. I come from it a little bit from a more personal thing, where I really personally get a lot more satisfaction out of building something together with people rather than being told what to do or telling other people what to do. So for me, it is a little bit just to, like, the selfish satisfaction of feeling like it's more fulfilling to do something together with people and to not have it be a very dictated thing. And I feel like when we have a worker co-op, that is something that is much easier to do than a standard hierarchical workplace.
So the benefits, you say redistribute wealth and power and building something together, and how that feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other benefits that you can see?
Well, like for us, because we are aiming to be on this trajectory of, multi-stakeholder, there is also a buy-in benefit where people who use the product or use whatever you're selling care about the sourcing of it, care about how it's built. It builds a stronger community. It builds more resilience within the community. And it kind of like taps into all of these ideas of, cooperation, mutualism, solidarity that are very human, I think. And it just has this like history of proving that. So that's, certainly another one.
So you say very human. I congratulate you, because I think that's the essence of humanity. And so if you go back in time, or not even in time, if you go look at tribes, everybody has their job to do. Everybody has to work together to get things done for the benefit of the whole group. Mm-hmm. And I kind of think that's why you and I have so much more satisfaction out of building something as a group, as opposed to individual. Now, I've owned a company where I was 100% owner. Mm-hmm. That got extremely lonely, and I couldn't I had 7 employees, and I couldn't get them to make decisions. Mm-hmm. As in the 15th, 16th, 14th, maybe 10th year, I was trying to push the decisions down, and it just didn't work. They were used to me making decisions. They wanted me to make decisions. And now there's 4 of us starting a media cooperative that's a worker-owned cooperative. And it's so much more fun. Mm-hmm. So much more fun.
Yeah. I like the joke in the co-op space, and I learned this one while working at that bakery, was instead of having one boss, you have, 4 bosses. But it really, or, in your case, 4 bosses, in our case, 3 bosses. It really captures that, you can make decisions together, and that's like much more satisfying, but also you're contending, like there is that also, and also, you are contending with other people's usually strong personalities, because I think you get into this, space because you are convicted, like you're full of conviction, and you want to make change and you want to do it. Like it's cool. It's a good space to be in.
Okay.
Proud to be in.
Well, you mentioned sociocracy, and I want to come back to that. But I find that there's another value for another benefit that's in the co-op space that's not necessarily in the capitalistic space. Mm-hmm. And that's the co-op values and principles. Mm-hmm. That when somebody says they're co-op, the first thing I want to know is, are you using or how do you use co-op values and principles? Mm-hmm. The cooperative values are self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity. And I like the ethical values of honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. Matter of fact, that last part, I say caring for one another, which is the golden rule, okay? And those 4 bosses in my case, or the 3 in your case, plus the 4 volunteers. If you're caring for each other, then it's a much nicer space, much nicer place to work in. So are you all using the cooperative values and principles?
Yes. I don't think that we have them, posted on our website or people have them memorized. But I think we're all coming from spaces where those are kind of inherent. I do locally in DC, I do a lot of mutual aid organizing, where everyone is encouraged to take initiative, basically all the principals as well. And all 3 of us are coming from that kind of space. So it's just very embodied in what we do. I'm really excited about, for example, the last principle, the solidarity one. I don't know if they always come in the same order, but the solidarity one, where you work together with other groups as well to accomplish cooperative ideals.
I think you're talking about Principle 6, which is often called P6, Cooperation Among Co-ops.
Right, that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the one that I'm really excited about once we, get a stronger footing for ourselves to be able to really engage with our community and locally as well as nationally as well as internationally.
Well, when you talk about the co-op ecosystem in DC, that is what is operating is cooperation among cooperatives. You have all of these different cooperatives, and people help each other, support each other. And the principle I like the most is the 5th principle, education, training, and information.
Yeah.
And I find that people in the co-op space share information. They don't hold it. They don't sort of say, this is my competitive edge.
Yeah.
They just share information. So, yeah, I like that. And
yeah. And that's something we take. And so we're also coming from in web development, there is this concept of open source, which means that anyone can look at the programming code that makes up our website and check how it works. So that is something that we also take really close to heart. We're trying to work with the door open, sharing out, the garage door open, I think is the phrase, sharing out and those kind of things. So it's just really, these principles, they're just, they make a lot of sense to us, I guess. They seem really natural.
So you've got the volunteer and open membership, which is principle 1. And you have democratic member control, 1 member, 1 vote. I find it interesting in sociocracy, and you talked about consensus. You mentioned that earlier. So how does consensus work in your company? Yes.
Yeah, so that's something we're still, honestly, we're still writing the operator. We're talking to our lawyer and their solidarity economy lawyer, and this is something we're still ironing out. But where we're landing is modified consensus or consent. I don't know what the actual, I don't know that there's a consensus on what the terminology is, but it's basically what we're doing is that everyone has to consent to a decision. And that means that if you say no to a decision, you think it's going to be harmful to the cooperative. And we go through a consensus building practice of the first round, any objections or any changes you want to make. And then we just build the group consensus. It's a little bit slower, but over the long term, I would think, and I'm noticing, is that because you build a lot of trust and you build a lot of, we're in the same, like, we trust that we're making the right decisions together because we've done them already, and even it starts becoming something that happens faster. I trust that people are making that decision.
Well, I think you hit it on the head with my understanding of sociocracy, and I like it. I didn't think that I would like consensus building because for me it was everybody would have to say yes in order to move forward. But what I've learned it to be is nobody says no. That people will have objections, but you deal with those. And it may mean changing what you were going to do, or getting the other person to say, well, we'll try it. Let's try it. We'll see how it goes and come back. So, yeah, I like consensus building. It does take longer, and it takes longer to get a decision, and it's a shorter time to implement.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get there, once you get that trust level, it's everyone's already on the same page, and that's a great place to be if you're making decisions together.
So we're getting ready to take our first break, Simon. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you about this new co-op that sounds like 6 months old. When we get back, I want to talk more about the music side of it. How can somebody come in and put their music on a space joint? We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oaks, and the program is Everything Co-op. We have Simon on with us today, who started a music co-op. So, Simon, we wanted to talk about how does a musician get involved to load their music up or become a part of this cooperative?
Yeah, so we have a website that anyone on the internet can find. As a musician, you would click on the sign up button, and then you get taken to a form where you say, I'm a musician or not, and you fill that in. And then if you had clicked, I'm a musician, you get asked, like, okay, give us some more information, like set a artist name, upload background images, set your websites, those kind of things. And then you can start adding albums or records onto the website. And that's just a form that you fill in, and you upload the music that you have and go from there. Then once you press publish, it appears on our website, and you can, send people to it to just buy your album or your single or whatever it is. People have also used it to host podcasts. So, it's a very diverse mix of music. Yeah, that's basically the process. We've had about 250 artists do that so far, and they've put up about 500 albums. So
Okay.
That's feels like a lot, but it's also a drop in the bucket when it comes to the amount of music that's out there.
Okay, so what is your webpage?
The website is mirlo.space, so that's MIRLO.SPACE.
So when you go in, which I just did, it says sign up or log in. Okay, so I hit sign up.
This is where I hope it works.
And it gave me where I could do my email and put in a password, and I just said, I'm just here to listen. You don't want me to play anything. Okay. So I hit sign up. Okay, so I've signed up for that. But I don't have to sign up to listen to the music.
No, you can just go, you could just go on and if you find an album you like, you could just click buy, and, then you own a copy of that album. And it'll send it to your email. You can download it via the website. And if you have an account on Mirlo as well, it'll just store it in your collection so that you can download it, whenever in the future.
Okay. So if I were a musician, I would probably be a jazz guitarist or pianist. Okay. I would go in and sign up, and let's say I had 3 or 4 pieces of music, then I would put that up. Mm-hmm. Then is it on me to tell people to come and look? I tell my friends. And
yeah. So we also have the ability to upload your fan list, your supporter list. So that's just a list of emails that you might already have, or just build a new list. You can post updates there. You can send people them there. As far as current functionality goes, this is we would like to do more. But right now it is very dependent on you going out there. And we have people using it for that reason, for that purpose, posting it, using it to manage their mailing list, etc. But you would have to go out there and tell people to come listen. You would still have to do shows. You would still have to, do everything that a musician usually has to do it. We're talking about doing more kind of like a podcast or a radio show, but that is, dependent on capacity building and getting some income so we can pay people to do some work.
Okay, so you had a program where people could donate. Mm-hmm. How could somebody go and donate?
Well, so if you go to the website, mirlo.space, at the top of the site, there's a link banner to our Kickstarter. You can go to that there. Also, if you just Google Mirlo Kickstarter, it'll come up. And people can donate there. And it'll give, whatever amount is great.
You don't have a minimum or maximum?
Well, so we do have a minimum. We wanted to do 15,000, so 150000, and we reached that this morning. So we're really happy. We're really excited. The crowdfunding campaign ends in 2.5 days, so we're really glad that we got there. Sliding under the finish line. But any extra money, obviously, it goes. We will use it, put it to good use.
But I didn't hear a minimum, and I thought the min was maybe $5. What is there a minimum?
Sorry. When you minimum $5 donation, I think.
Okay. And what will somebody get for donating? What's the benefit of?
Yeah. So a lot of the donating is you could just support us. You could just think it's a good project, etc. If you give over a certain amount, so the lowest tier you get certain rewards for certain amounts. And the lowest tier we have is at $15. You get a compilation album for whoever, from a bunch of musicians who are currently on Mirlo, and then you have a compilation album. You can also get a tier where you get a T-shirt or a hat, which will be some of them I'll make myself. A screen printer, and others will order from a co-op printing press. And there's buttons. We also have been, for $35, I think this one's really cool. Alex is a jazz trombonist, and he will be composing small serenades for everyone who gives $35 or more. So those will come out as well.
All right. So I donated earlier before we got online. I like this project so much. So I donated $100. Is there anything else that one gets besides being serenaded?
For $100. Yeah, so it's either the physical things. We don't have, there's no because we're a worker co-op, we don't have the ability to really do decision-making things. like you don't get a thing like that. I have to have a look what other things are available for rewards.
Okay, Simon, my cousin, his name is Pat Thornton. She's also the producer of this show.
Yeah.
I want you to get the trombonist, Alex, to do a serenade, a skit for her.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want the other stuff. You can tell them
Okay.
I've got so many T-shirts, it's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So don't spend any money with anything else. I might come back and look at this mix of music.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we don't have the final album yet. We're still working with musicians to put it together. So, once it's live, we'll let people know.
all right, how do you listen to the music?
So you just go onto the website and you can search for specific musicians, or you can just browse all the releases, which by this point is a very long list. So we have to figure out some other things. And you just go to an album and you click play. There's a play button, and it'll start playing with the first track and go through to the last one.
Okay.
And there's really, there's a wide variety of music on there, varying levels of soothing and abrasive, which, to each their own, music style, etc.
So is Alex the name, is his last name Rodriguez?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he has an artist profile too.
So I was trying to get it to play, but it's not. Okay. All right, that's Pat, and you can buy that album.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think he's today actually recording some more stuff. So.
Okay, so I went on, I searched for Alex, that's the only name I knew would be there, and I like jazz, and he's got 2 albums on now. I could buy it or play it. And one of them says, name your price, so I could pay for it whatever I wanted to?
Yeah. Artists can set a minimum, but then often they set $0, and it's just whatever you want to give for the music. Yeah. It's really cool. It's a cool thing.
So how much does the artist get?
Great question. So we take a 7% cut as Mirlo. So if you sell something for $1, we take 7 cents. And that's something that, back and forth debating. That can be any range of things. Industry standard is around 10% or 15%. And then also the payment processor that we use, Stripe, takes a essentially a 3% cut.
So the artist gets 90%?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and if the artist has someone that wrote the music, then they'd have to look at whatever agreement they had with whoever wrote the music, plus all of the musicians and all of that, to break up that 90 cents.
Yeah, we don't take care of any of the royalty stuff. That was an explicit decision that we made because it gets very complicated very quickly, and that is. Yeah, so if it's a label or a musician or a band that uploads music, we're saying, you all decide how you want to split that 90 cents.
Okay. So 250 artists, 500 albums, sounds like a lot to me. I don't know, you said it's not that much. And you've only been in this 6 months now?
Yeah, it's been great. I feel like there is a group of musicians who are very enthusiastic about this kind of thing. Of course, as a business for us, we need to turn that into sales. You can upload a lot of music and that costs us money when you do so, but if it doesn't turn into sales, then we cannot support the business. So that is the next step for us, and that's part of what the crowdfunding gives us. The breathing room to get to that next stage of being able to figure that out, figure out the business plan, sort it out, reach out, do outreach, marketing, those kind of things.
So do you have somebody to help you with the business plan?
We're working on it together. We are also talking to a beloved community incubator here in DC. They're a co-op space solidarity economy incubator. and they do business plan support. So they've given us some worksheets to work through, which we have been working on, and we'll have conversations with them and their apprentices to get to the next level.
Can you tell us their name?
So that's mainly Felix that we've been talking to, and Bianca as well. And I'm not sure who the apprentice who will be working with us yet. That is something that's in the... yeah.
Okay. So I was working with a musician that created 3 songs, hip-hop songs.
Mm-hmm.
Got a co-op poppin', we on a paper route. We got a co-op poppin', we spread that paper out. We got a co-op poppin', building communities, linking up, expanding on opportunities. Grind together, shine together, we gon' get it poppin'. Spend together, win together, we gon' get it poppin'. Stand together, plan together, we gon' get it poppin'. Any climate, any weather, we gon' get it poppin'. Grind together, shine together, we gon' get it poppin'.
So all these 3 songs are about promoting the co-op model.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I was wanting it, he's got it more in a hip-hop gender, how to maybe get country or R&B with these same songs or some mixture.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all help at all with that?
So that's, I think, something we would love to get into, but we don't have it right now. I would love to get to a space where we're encouraging, and this is kind of that mutual aid aspect of what we do. I would love to get into a space where we're encouraging musician collaborations and helping people find people to work with. We've had conversations with people who are doing gift exchange or like whatever the idea is, and we're hoping to get to a place where we can help people find each other to make different music or new music or try new things, those kind of things.
Well, I would love it, because in looking at this to share with you today, is he created these in 21 and we haven't been able to get them out yet. And I'd love to get them out, and it would be awesome to get them out in a co-op space. I like your space. That's why I made that donation, because I like what you're doing. And it seems that musicians too often get ripped off. It used to be very badly, particularly for black musicians.
Mm-hmm.
But having something where they have a lot more control over the funds, I like that. And you already know how much you're going to take out.
Yeah.
Nothing hidden.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There is a lot of middlemen in the music industry, and everyone takes a cut. And we're another middleman, but like there will likely always be middlemen. I think it's much more about having democratic control over them. And so that's what we're hoping to address.
I love it. I love it. You have any advice for me on how I can get this collaboration going to get this music out? Well, my goal is just to have people understand about the co-ops. Just the whole reason for this radio show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a cool project to set up, as a initiative for building some specifically hip hop R&B songs around this kind of music. I think you'd have to reach out to people. You already have someone who's willing to do it because they made the music. They probably know people as well. And going from there, I think, you could upload like a pre-release to Mirlo or, Bandcamp or even Spotify probably, and get people interested in it that way. So yeah, that is the way that I would proceed with that, is just setting the intention of doing it. I think that we'd have to talk about it with the co-owners, but I think that there would probably be some interest in trying to figure that out.
Okay. We'd love to do that. But Everything Co-op does have the right for the song we just said, the co-op popping. So I felt okay with putting it on air.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the future. Where do you see Mirlo going? What do you see happening in your space?
Yeah. So I hope that we get to a place where the music industry is much more beholden to the people who are actually making the music or making it happen. Right now in the music industry, you know, there's like 3 companies and they own 80% of the music. They get a royalty cut of all that stuff. And then, you know, there's Spotify and musicians. Spotify recently did something where if your song has less than 1,000 plays, you will not receive any money for that song from Spotify. And they can just make these decisions because they are beholden to profit. They're not beholden to musicians. So we're hoping to get to a place where, you know, the platform is, you know, it's a sales pitch, it's a sales point, it's proof of concept, but we also really take seriously the cultural and community building work that is involved in trying to challenge these, you know, super mega systems. A lot of us have experience in organizing in our communities, doing, you know, like the hard work of community organizing, like door knocking and those kind of things. And we're hoping that Mirlo will be a way to build stronger, resilient community locally. Hopefully in DC, that means, you know, bringing people into the same space together to talk about what it looks like to, and this is nebulous. I don't know what it looks like yet, but we want to trigger that conversation of how do you build a music industry that puts the creators of the things that we're making the center of it rather than marginalized further and further.
Well, it's nice not to know, and that would be the fun part of it, working with your team members to figure it all out and bringing in other people to help out.
Yeah. Mirlo is, like, I guess short term, more short term. We hope that the business becomes sustainable, which would create space for us to work on those more bigger, you know, and be able to fund those kind of bigger projects, which, you know, that's a hope. There's a lot of questions around what success looks like for us. Like if we can go, like I think technologically, we could go toe to toe with at least Bandcamp or Patreon. But is that desirable? You know, like is that actually, do we want to compete on the terms of these large venture capitalist extractive companies, or do we want to kind of redefine what success looks like and focus on our local achievements and those kind of things? And I think that's kind of, you know, like we're in the contradiction between the immediate business needs of being sustainable while also wanting to make the world better, and that's a really big lift.
Well, I think you can do it.
Fingers crossed.
How is the co-op ecosystem in DC helping you get to the place where you can be successful? Yeah,
I love that question. Well, first, I met one of the Everything Co-op organizers, Justin, through that ecosystem, and so that's why I'm here. So I appreciate that. Massive thank you. So I feel like that's one of those like cooperation principles. Then there's the beloved community incubator folks. They're locally as well. There's been a lot of opportunities that's just created through the DC Cooperative Stakeholders Group, and I think there's a community wealth building group as well around doing those kind of things. And then I also have like a lot of folks in my local neighborhood that I do some like very basic organizing with that have been a sounding board for a lot of these things. And that's not the most like explicit form of the solidarity economy, but also is this very real part of it, right? Like the community you're a part of and the support that they provide in that kind of way.
So what is the definition of Mirlo? I think of the wine, M-I-R-L-O, red wine.
Yeah. So Mirlo is Spanish for blackbird. We thought blackbird was a little clunky. Blackbirds are songbirds, and the Spanish word for them is Mirlo. And so that's where we love the sound of the word.
So it's also self-importance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a jazz musician that had a song out called Blackbird.
Yeah.
Can't remember who that was. Okay. So What message would you like to leave people with?
I think the main message I'd love to leave with is I'd love people to reflect on the music that they listen to, because most everyone I know listens to music, and reflecting on the music that they listen to, how it's made, how it gets to their ears, and maybe thinking about, going out and buying a musician's album, even if that's not the main way that you listen to it, because very often when you buy the album, so much more of it goes to the musician itself rather than if you stream their song 10,000 times. And think about the community, because like so much music also happens locally. You go to shows, you have your friends who play music. It's a core component of community, and I think it's great. Yeah, I treasure music, treasure people who make music. Try making your own music.
Okay. Simon, I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing your
so
co-op.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here.
And I will want to follow up and keep in touch and see what I can do to help you be successful. Everybody else out there, please live cooperatively, and we'll see you next Thursday.